In this lesson we will take a break from the tiles and learn about length. And we can start right away, so just go to the shade editor and there you will press Shift A, go to input and find texture coordinate. So select texture coordinate, put that in, and in this case we will use the UV as we normally do. So just drag from the UV and release your mouse button and you will get this menu. Now you can just write length, so length like this, and you will find vector math length. So select that one and take the value from the length to the surface of the material output. And if you now are in rendered view, you will see a white square except for the lower left corner where it's black. And the reason that it's black there is because that is the point where length starts to measure, and it's because it's 0 and 0 in UV, exactly as we learned in the previous lesson. So we need to move that, and we will do that in the same way as we did before, meaning that we subtract with 0.5 and then multiply with 2. So go to your shade editor again, press Shift A, go down to converter, and here you will find vector math. So select vector math, put it into the UV and change add into subtract. And now I just change those two values that are in the top to 0.5. And as soon as you do that, you can see that the black dot or spot has now moved to the center. But to get 1 at the edges, we need to multiply with 2. So we take this subtract, just copy it using Shift D and move it to the next position and change subtract into multiply, and the value should be 2 and 2. Now we have a good looking thing here, but to really see it, it's easier if I inverse it, so we get like a white circle and we get black outside that circle. And that is very easy to do because all we have to do is put in subtract here and put 1 at the top. So we start with 1 instead of 0, and then we just decrease it whatever what length can offer us. So it will be 0 in the starting point, so 1 minus 0 will be 1, and then length will increase its value, so the total value 1, and then subtract with the increasing value will decrease. So I will show you how it works. So just take Shift A again, go to converter and select math, not vector math, because as you can see here it's a blue input, that means vector, but length converts that blue vector into a scalar value, a singular value, so we use the normal math. So Shift A, converter and math. Put that in and then put that to subtract and move this to the bottom and put 1 at the top. And now you can see a clear circle here, and you can also see that the edges in the center on each side will touch barely the edge. So 1 is exactly what it will be on the longest measurement on this plane here, since we multiplied it with 2. Okay, now that is rather soft in the edges here, but we can increase the contrast by using a power. So we can add a power after subtract here. So easiest just to copy subtract, so Shift D, move it and change to power. And as you can see, with an exponent that is less than 1, we increase, in this case, the contrast. So if I go down, you can see it really goes into be very, very sharp. And if I go up, you can get a very, very soft edge here. So that is how length is working, and of course we can use that to all circular things. So if you want to make like a sun, or if you want to make a clock or a ball, or perhaps a button, or I don't know, a starting point for the symbol yin and yang, you can of course use length in some way. We can also use length in many other ways, but I will teach you that later on. There is like a cousin or a relative to a length, and that is distance. And I will show you that as well just before we leave here. So if I change this to distance, like that, you could see that nothing happened at all, but we got 3 new values here, and we can move those, and that is like the starting point, because distance is measuring the distance between A and B. So length, that we used before, only go from 0 and then out, but here in distance we can put in another starting point, which means that we could, if we want to, take away the subtract here, and instead just move the distance to the starting point by adding 1 here. Since we multiply with 2, it will be the 1 and 1 here. So in that way you can use distance instead of length, and yeah, that is how it works. So we have a flexible starting point instead of having like 0 when we start with length. So that is the difference between distance and length. Okay, so I think that is all we are going to do this lesson. So we'll see you in the next. Bye for now.